along with everyone listening in via our online broadcasting channels. I want to thank you for having me here today. My name is Chelsea Rubel, and I have been a longtime resident of Corona, California for roughly 25 years. If you ask me, that is a huge amount of time, being the fact that I am 31. So obviously, I have been here in Corona for a very long time. Growing up in the city, I have witnessed many changes. As a young girl, my family and I would travel through the hills of Corona, looking at the orange groves, going dirt riding and taking our trucks through the mountains just to overlook the beauty of the city. Over time, that city began to grow. The population got larger, the houses were starting to pop up, and the orange groves were no longer there. Instead, we've seen Corona become a city full of homes and businesses, and economic challenges began to face. So today I want to talk about some problems that we are seeing here in Corona, particularly the rising of childcare costs, how it's affecting the families not only in Corona but also around the country, and the changes that need to be made or could be made in order to help this issue. Some of the numbers or information I will be giving you today are not only about Corona, but about the United States. For me, this paints a picture of really the scale that this issue has. I want you to think of that scale on a spectrum. If this can so greatly affect our country, then how does that measure to our city? So to think about some numbers and really make it realistic for you. In 2013, the University of Pennsylvania showed that more than any other cost, childcare was the number one. It was a rise over food and clothing. It was in a rise over any other healthcare or medical cost. It was almost a 2,000% rise over the last 40 years. Unfortunately, mathematically, I am incapable of telling you in the next 40 years what a 2,000% increase would do to us. So what do we know? We know now that the average United States family, or family within California at least, makes about $55,000 a year. With that being said, childcare costs is about $16,000 per year as well. So when you look at the person next to you and presume that they have an average annual income, we look and think that that person is spending about 25% of their income in order to pay for the childcare cost of one child, not two. So about 50% of their income would be going to childcare, given that that person has two children. Now that you know the numbers, how is this affecting us? How is it affecting our city, and how is it affecting the United States? American Progress reported that in 2016, 2 million people made career sacrifices, meaning they quit their jobs or moved their jobs or changed locations because of childcare costs. 2 million. That is a huge number. So what does that say for us? How is that affecting us? Well, $55 billion in that year, or in every year after that, the average $55 billion was lost in wages and revenue from businesses because of the childcare crisis. Now, I know that this is a lot of numbers. And I know that it's a huge scale and a lot of information. But what can we start doing about it? And what are the small things that we can start doing in Corona? We can start to have pre-child care in our schools. Pre-K will help to bring children out of the homes, out of the child care centers, and alleviate that cost at a younger age for those parents and those families. We can also extend after school and before school programs in order to make sure that parents don't have to put their children into those child care or after school paid programs. We could offer or ask local businesses to donate funds so that those parents that are not able to work because they don't have the means to pay for childcare can work, and they can go to school, and then they can turn around and put back some of that $57 billion in lost wages back into our economy and back into our city. So while we've gone over the rising childcare costs and how that's affecting us and some very simple solutions, I ask you to go home today. I ask you to think about your help, about your financial help, about your economic help, and about the emotional help that you received, maybe from family or friends, maybe from state-funded programs. I want you to take that into account. Take that into account for how we can help our city. While this may be one day of bringing forth all of these efforts, it's going to take many of us to provide an answer. So I want to thank you for hearing me today. I want to thank you for helping or wanting to help the city of Corona and everybody here that lives. Thank you and God bless.